Hello, welcome to Rise and Unwind Rally. My name is Mandy, and here every week we talk to special guests giving you lifestyle tricks, tips, and more. And this week we have this.
If you would have told me 30 years ago there would be congressional hearings in U.S. Congress about UAPs and UFOs, I would have said, you know what? That would be wonderful, but it will never happen.
All that and more on Rise and Unwind.
Prostate cancer is the second most common cancer among men, and September is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Around 45,000 men in the United States will be diagnosed this year with a type called hormone-sensitive prostate cancer. Today, we're joined by Dr. Benjamin Lowentritt, Director of Prostate Cancer Services at United Urology Group, and Bob Lane, better known as Elevator Bob, a survivor who now spends his time supporting other patients. And let's welcome to the show. How are you two?
Doing great, thank you.
Doing real well, thanks for asking.
Dr. Lowentritt, prostate cancer isn't just one condition, there are many different types. What are some of the lesser known ones and how do hormones factor into them?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Dan. And you know, I'm really pleased to be partnered with Johnson & Johnson today to talk about some of the options that we have here. You kind of highlighted it earlier. There are actually over 300,000 men that'll be diagnosed with prostate cancer, but a subset of them will have cancer that either comes back after a treatment or is already spread. And most of those men will then have what we call hormone-sensitive metastatic prostate cancer. And that's that number we're really talking about addressing today. Those are patients that are at risk for the cancer really affecting their long-term life. So these are patients that we're identifying the most effective treatments, which generally are to block testosterone. Testosterone is the hormone that we're referring to, and testosterone is the fuel that feeds prostate cancer. So by restricting the amount of testosterone and by using medications like ERLEADA to block the effect of testosterone, we can put the cancer into a much slower growth or even a dormant state, oftentimes for years. So identifying patients, making sure that they understand where they are and getting them on the right therapy is really critical.
And Bob, you faced this disease more than once. Can you share what your treatment and journey has been like?
Sure, Dan. The initial treatment was surgery to remove the prostate, but it came back, as Dr. Lowentritt alluded a few moments ago. And after they were able to find it and we watched it grow and they took it out with radiation for a 4-year period, we were watching that. And I had a 4-year-long conversation with the doctors about what treatments would be available, because we knew at the time that it was hormone sensitive, which is the type that we're talking about here. So it was basically a no-brainer when I realized that the combination therapy that involved the ERLEADA was the state of the art at the time, and it continues to do a fabulous job of keeping me healthy. 2 pills a night. That's the extent of it. And I go about my life and living, and I play golf and carry my golf bag down the fairway or into the rough if I happen to miss a shot.
Into the rough. I also love the nickname Elevator Bob. How did that come about, and what does your advocacy look like today?
Elevator Bob is a moniker that I've had for about 2.5 years. The head nurse asked me if I'd be willing to speak with patients who are undergoing treatment for advanced prostate cancer. And I said yes. So I sit out by the elevator, and when they come out, if they approach me, then we have a conversation about their diagnosis. I share my story, they share theirs. And once I learn what their diagnosis is, I'm able to offer them suggestions as to places to do some research about it, questions that they might want to ask their doctor, credible sources of information to keep them off of Google, which is not a great place to do research, and show them that there's hope. I'm 4 years plus in on this cocktail, and I'm 12 years into my journey since it was first diagnosed. So there's a lot of hope. There is support out there, and encourage them to build their own support network, including medical team, including their family, including other prostate cancer patients. So that's what my advocacy looks like.
And doctor, you've studied something called real-world evidence in prostate cancer care. What does that mean, and what have we learned from it?
Yeah, thank you. Real world evidence is just like it sounds, right? Is getting evidence from regular everyday medical practices around the country to supplement what we get from our traditional clinical trials, right? So we're able to answer questions sometimes that aren't able to be answered in a clinical trial, or just to reinforce that what we're seeing in a clinical trial, which tends to be very curated and very limited in sort of the variety that they can incorporate into it. By design, it's meant to prove a certain set of points. But real world evidence allows us to see, okay, does that really apply across the board? Does it apply to you as a patient? Does it apply as a doctor? Does it apply to patients that I typically see? So we've been able to use real world evidence to both reinforce what those clinical trials show and also to really help a doctor and a patient navigate through all the different options that are available to really look and say, okay, what is the impact of a treatment like ERLEADA, and does that make it does it make you more comfortable in selecting that combination therapy that's available that Bob alluded to earlier? So I think it has been a really helpful component for many to understand the impact of treatments on the disease.
And so why should patients and doctors consider this real-world evidence when deciding treatment options?
Yeah, I think that we are more and more able to understand what's happening through widespread use of different treatments. And whereas a trial may have a few hundred people on it, a real world evidence may allow us to look at thousands of people from many different environments. So it really is just an ability to get, hey, is this really working in the real world like what we saw in the clinical trials?
Where can men go to learn more about their treatment options?
I always recommend patients talk to your doctor, understand the risks of side effects and the benefits of any treatment you're considering. If you have interest in learning more, you can go to ERLEADA.com. That's a way to get more information about that treatment. But don't be afraid to ask to meet a specialist, to find a second opinion if you need to. Get that information and from all the different sources we're talking about to make your best decision.
Hey, I want to thank you too for joining me today.
Thank you for having us, Dan.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, for having us. Pleasure to be here.
Ancient Aliens is back with new episodes on History Channel, and the conversation has jumped from your TV to the stage. The live show, Ancient Aliens Live, is touring the country, and joining us today is the face of the series, Giorgio Tsoukalos. Giorgio, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm doing great. Thanks very much. How about you?
I'm doing good. For the fans out there who only know about the TV series, what does this Ancient Aliens Live deliver that you can't get from a single episode? Is there a moment from it, from doing it, that has kind of surprised you too?
Absolutely, because Ancient Aliens Live is something to give back to the fans, because only the fans have kept us on the air for so long. Because without an audience, you can't be on the air. So thanks to all the fans for keeping on our lights. And so as a thank you, we are crisscrossing the U.S. together with myself, Jason Martell, William Henry, and Nick Pope, some of the stars of the show, and we present essentially a 90-minute immersive Ancient Aliens episode with photos, videos, discussions, and a Q&A at the end with the audience. And so if you want to see how we interact with each other and what our banter is, and if you want to hear us speak in full sentences, then this is a fun night out on the town for the whole family. And it's a little roller coaster around the world full of adventure, exploring ancient mysteries. So come on down, check it out.
And the season feels bigger, with perspectives colliding, some new discoveries. In your words, what's new or evolved about Ancient Aliens right now?
Well, Ancient Aliens, we are now also covering modern aliens, because I've got news. They never left. They've always been here observing, because back then they were called the Watchers. Well, a watcher never stops watching. And so what were our ancestors referring to? They were referring to visiting extraterrestrials who imparted the first basics of science, mathematics, agriculture, engineering, all the medicine, all the astronomy, all these different things. And so I think that if you teach that to somebody, you never lose interest to observe their progress. And so I think that is what's going on right now. These increased UFO sightings up in the sky, I think it's them showing themselves slowly to illustrate, hey, you are not alone. And by the way, you've never been alone.
And skeptics are always asking for that strongest piece of evidence, the one thing that you kind of point to and say, let's start here. What is it for you and why?
So long ago, I would have completely answered this question differently, and I would have rattled off a whole list of what I find, concise evidence. However, over time, I learned that any skeptic in this is only ready to accept any of our propositions if they are ready for it. And so I don't care anymore if the skeptics agree with me or not. The evidence is there. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked, I love Ancient Aliens, but how come you never show any evidence? Well, in the almost 300 episode we've done, it's all evidence. The evidence is in the episode. So this illustrates perfectly that what might be evidence to some is not evidence to someone else. And so time will tell. And I know that we are sitting on the right horse. And, we are in the paradigm shift already. I mean, if you would have told me 30 years ago there would be congressional hearings in US Congress about UAPs and UFOs, I would have said, you know what? That would be wonderful, but it will never happen. And only last week, a few days ago, there was the third congressional hearing about UAP/UFOs in the halls of Congress. I mean, we live in the most extraordinary of times.
And you guys often connect mythology, history, traditions. Where do you draw that line between legend and historical data?
Well, the line is that it is a fact that any legend, any mythology has to be rooted in some type of a reality, because not a single idea is born out of a vacuum. And so if you have, biblical stories of, let's say, Ezekiel, who is taken up by this glowing glory of the Lord, as he calls it, but then it descends and he sees that there's a wheel within a wheel, and it was as noisy as 1,000 waterfalls and things like that. So you have to ask yourself, wait a second, were these just visions? Did it all just happen in somebody's head because, they drank too much or they smoked one or two substances? That to me is insulting the intelligence of our ancestors. Our ancestors commemorated these things because they knew whatever they were observing was not ordinary. It was extraordinary because they lived in nature. They were way closer to nature than we will ever be in this day and age. I mean, they lived in nature. I mean, they had no shelter in the earliest of days. They had to find shelter. They had to, find food, hunter-gatherers. And so when you have the earliest of petroglyphs that have very strange beings in them, you have to wonder, well, how did they come up with this if there was nothing to base this upon? Because any psychiatrist or psychologist will tell you that you can't come up with a story unless you have a basis for it. And where is the basis at the beginning of history? There is no basis. We have a basis today, but back then there was no cumulative knowledge to draw from.
Giorgio Tsoukalos, thanks for joining us today. Ancient Aliens airs Friday at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on History Channel, and episodes available to stream the next day. For tour dates and tickets to Ancient Aliens Live, you got to check out ancientalienslive.tour.com. Giorgio, thanks for hanging out with me this morning.
Wonderful, Dan, and I can't wait to do it again next time. Thank you.
Have you ever wondered what it's really like inside a plural marriage? TLC's hit series Seeking Sister Wife is back with new stories and familiar faces exploring the ups and downs of polygamous relationships. One of those families is the Davises. Nick, April, and Jennifer are not only preparing to welcome another baby girl, but are also exploring the possibility of adding a longtime family friend as a potential sister wife. Welcome to the show, Nick, April, and Jennifer. How are you?
Hi, doing well, thank you.
Hi, thanks for having us.
All right, for those that are kind of new to the show, can you share a little bit about your journey as a family and kind of what led you to this plural marriage?
Just this unconventional lifestyle is just something that's always appealed to me for quite a while. And thankfully, at whatever point I met April, she kind of fell into it also. She noticed the benefits and recognized it as being something that she wanted to do also. And so we've just been steadily just building together, working on our family. We met Jennifer. Jennifer came along and she was with it too. So the three of us have been together for about 8 years now.
And this season highlights your friendship with Teresa. What made now the right time to explore whether she could be part of your family in a deeper way?
Yes, so this season you will see us courting Teresa. She's been friends with us for over 10 years. And honestly, it was the kind of thing where she approached Jenny and I. She knows that the women in our relationship do the initial seeking. And she made it very known to us that she has feelings for Nick and would like the opportunity to be able to date us and potentially become our sister wife. And so after some correspondence, we decided to go on a date.
And Nick, the show touches on your struggle moving from like best friend to husband. How are you working through that transition?
Oh, wow. It's not easy for me because just the way that I operate in life, I don't like mixing things up. I don't like mixing relationships. So I keep my boundaries very strict. So the time that Teresa has spent as my friend, she's just strictly been my friend, all the way platonic. So to try to move things over now after having so long where her and I were just buddies, if you will, it's definitely something that's not easy for me.
And with the new baby on the way, how does growing your family both add joy and maybe some challenges to this plural lifestyle?
Adding our baby Charlie is definitely, of course, been so overjoying to us. But also, it adds maybe another level of potential complication to adding a potential sister wife. That person is going to need to be okay with, young children and, a newborn in the house. So we want to make sure whoever's coming in is the most comfortable with that and, wants that sort of family lifestyle.
What do you hope viewers take away from your story this season, whether they agree with your choices or not?
Honestly, I think that the biggest thing is that you can have a happy and healthy relationship without it being society's traditionals type of norms. We do things completely different. We even do things a lot of times different than a lot of other polygamous families, and that's okay. And we want to show that you can do things differently and you're happy and have a good family home.
I'm not in any way trying to promote the idea that all men should be polygamous, but you should definitely seek to create the kind of life that you want for yourself. Absolutely.
And do the towels say his and hers and hers?
We definitely should get those. Absolutely.
All right, you three. You can follow the Davis family journey and meet the other families with the new season of Seeking Sister Wife, now playing on TLC. I want to thank you three for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Have you ever wondered about the stories behind some of heavy metal's most legendary and sometimes misunderstood figures? From Randy Rhoads to Dimebag Darrell, Wendy O. Williams to Judas Priest on trial, these are tales of creativity, tragedy, and survival. Hulu's new docuseries Into the Void takes us behind the curtain of metal to reveal the raw and very human stories behind the music. So joining me are the creators of the series, Evan Husney and Jason Eisner. Welcome to the show, you two.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks so much for having us.
All right, heavy metal has always carried a reputation for being extreme in sound and lifestyle. What made you want to explore the more human side of these artists in Into the Void?
Well, outside of, Jason and I growing up as huge metal fans, and any opportunity to make this your job is a total dream come true. Outside of our love and passion for, metal and wanting people to, appreciate the genre more, I think that metal is a very interesting world to examine because, as you said at the top of the show, it is a genre that is often, misunderstood, misrepresented, or even weaponized by other people to further their own agendas in many ways, historically, which, of course, our show examines throughout the 80s and early 90s. Yeah, and so I think it was an opportunity for us to kind of create a series that goes beyond just, their career trajectories, their albums, the process of writing music and their hit songs, to really reveal the human side of all these figures and artists in this world, and to really show that, they're much more than just their larger than life stage personas. These are regular people who go through the same things we do, tragedy, triumph, resilience, perseverance, and things like that. And it really gave us the opportunity to highlight that with this series, and any opportunity to get more people into the genre or to respect the genre, to understand it more, is definitely awesome and enough for me.
And the series, it spotlights icons like Randy Rhoads and Dimebag Darrell, but also figures people may not know like Anne Boleyn or the Iranian band Confess. How did you decide what stories you chose to tell?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real process of, picking some of the stories that, like we felt that there was more space for even the most hardcore fan to learn something new about, in case of Randy Rhoads or the Dimebag Darrell story. But we also wanted the series to go deeper, and we wanted there to be a lot of discovery stories and stories from bands that you may never have heard of. And we really prioritized the strength of that human story in the episode to kind of guide us in terms of which ones we were going to pick. And I'm very excited for people to understand, or to really discover the music of Enemy and the jaw-dropping story behind that band, and as well as somebody like Anne Boleyn of the band Hellion, who really should have made it and did make it, didn't make it in the industry. And of course, we're going to get into all the reasons why that was, which really makes it definitely a cautionary tale.
And one of the more striking episodes is about Judas Priest being put on trial, accused of influencing a tragedy. What is that moment, or any other moment within the series that talk about the cultural battles metal has faced?
Well, in particular, sorry, I feel like I'm Jason, if you want to hop in, but for me, it's like I feel with that story in particular, it's very relevant to now. I mean, Judas Priest, that story and everything that happened in terms of, really looking at sort of a conservative, Christian movement in the 80s that was sort of looking at metal as this very evil, thing that was corrupting youth. It was causing teenage delinquency. It was inspiring crimes and things like that. And they sort of weaponized the genre to further their own cause. And that really caused that spiraled off into the PMRC and other things and other forms of censorship with heavy metal for a long time. And I feel like there was sort of a prophecy in terms of what all of the metal artists of that era were fighting against, that we're sort of seeing coming into fruition now. And I think in terms of free speech and in terms of other things. So I really do feel like it's very prescient to look at these stories from the past and sort of look at what we can learn from them in terms of, the freedom of artistic expression, trying to be put under attack and trying to be, harnessed and taken away.
Yeah, I think there's also a lot for people to learn from our episode on Confess, who are this a metal band from Iran who were persecuted for their music that spoke out about religion and the government. And they were actually arrested by the government for their music and were facing very serious jail time. And they had to flee their country to be able to pursue their art and their freedom of expression. And so I think that's definitely an episode I think that's going to feel very timely right now.
Exactly.
I want to thank you two for joining me today. All 8 episodes of Into the Void are now streaming on Hulu. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's a powerful look at the legends, the overlooked trailblazers, and the stories that continue to shape heavy metal culture today. I want to thank you two for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Did you know what you eat can play a real role in lowering breast cancer risk? A new survey shows most women still aren't talking with their doctors about it, and men, though it's rare, you're not off the hook when we talk about breast cancer. So joining us today are Dr. Kristi Funk, a leading breast cancer surgeon, and Nikia Lightfoot, a survivor and plant-based chef with insights from the Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Hey, we're great. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Funk, what do we know about the impact of diet and lifestyle on breast cancer risk?
Well, what we know is that it has a tremendous impact because it's really not all about genetics or fate. Only 5 to 10% of all patients with breast cancer have an inherited gene mutation such as BRCA or CHEK2, pushing that drive toward cancer. In fact, it's more about our diet and lifestyle choices that impact breast cancer risk and outcome. So, for example, the big heavy hitters shown by science are to eat a whole food plant-based diet, to exercise regularly, to maintain ideal body weight, and to minimize alcohol. This comprises the 4-pronged approach to our Let's Beat breastcancer.org campaign, where we encourage women and men to follow these 4 simple steps with very actionable, practical changes that you can make to your diet, to your lifestyle today to impact your health destiny.
You guys got new survey results. What do you think they tell us about women's awareness of nutrition and prevention?
Interesting. So over 2,000 women were surveyed and asked the question, hey, what do you think prevents breast cancer? And the majority, over 60%, said mammograms and self-breast exams, which is a great answer to the question of how do you detect cancer early, but it is not prevention. Only 25% mentioned diet, 12% exercise, 12% mentioned alcohol, 5% mentioned body weight, when in fact, those 4 things are the main movers and shakers inside your body, inside your cells that push you toward cancer or away. So it shows us that we have a lot of educating to do. Part of that survey, we found that only 19% of responders had had a conversation ever with their physicians about how diet or lifestyle impact cancer risk. So clearly, the physicians themselves need to get educated and then need to start imparting their knowledge to their patients.
Nikia, how did your own breast cancer journey shape your commitment to plant-based eating and education?
Well, at the age of 34, I became one in 8 women in the U.S. to be diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a complete shock because breast cancer doesn't run in my family. In addition to traditional medicine, I adopted a plant-based diet that supported my journey to healing and recovery. And I've had so many opportunities to speak with the community and share my story and the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle. And through this journey, I was able to open Bougie Vegan, which is a 100% plant-based comfort food restaurant. I wanted to dispel the myths about plant-based eating and give options to my community. And we offer an extensive menu and we offer meal prep options as well as cooking classes for the community.
So what is the goal of the Let's Beat Breast Cancer campaign and how can women get involved?
The goal of the campaign is simply education. You can get involved by going to letsbeatbreastcancer.org. You sign up for completely free. And we will immediately send you a starter guide to the 4-pronged approach to beating breast cancer. So tons of tips, resources, tricks on how to implement these changes in a real, easy, practical way starting now. We give you this so-coveted e-cookbook with amazing plant-based recipes and also send you updates. There are a lot of events happening, especially now. We have over 66 drum rallies across the country where local high school drum lines will come to help you beat the drum to beat breast cancer. We invite all advocates and health experts, but survivors and thrivers to come with their families and friends. We have 2 big events coming near you, I believe, October 5th in Asheville and October 18th in Durham. So come on out. Letsbeatbreastcancer.org. Sign up for the freebies and hit find a rally to find the rally closest to you.
And finally, where can viewers go to learn more and get resources?
Yes, they can go to letsbeatbreastcancer.org. They can go to pinklotus.com and they can follow me at Dr. Kristi Funk on Instagram.
I want to thank you 2 for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week. That was Rise and Unwind. And be sure to follow us on all your social platforms and subscribe to our YouTube at Rise Unwind. You take care and see you next week, Rally.